Today on the Lab Report, we'll learn that living things have traits based on their genes. That genes code for proteins that have specific structures and functions. And mutations in genes can be beneficial, harmful, or have no effect. Hey, I'm Dr. Jeff, and today we're learning about genes and mutations. Adam here is holding a regular cat, and Caroline is holding a hairless cat. How do you think this hairless cat got this way?
Did you just shave all its fur off?
No, I would never do that. The lack of hair is a natural trait that was passed down from its parents.
So you're saying that its parents also have no hair?
That's right. Traits are characteristics of an organism that can be passed down from parents to their offspring.
Traits are things like eye color, hair color, and the shape of our nose.
Or, in the case of these cats, having hair or no hair.
Yes, and traits are determined by genetic material called DNA. DNA stands for deoxyribonucleic acid, and it has a recognizable shape, like this.
Wow, it's long and twisted.
It is. DNA is found in all cells. It contains the instructions for making an organism.
So DNA in cat cells contain all the instructions for making a cat. And the DNA in my cells contain all the instructions for making me.
That's right. The DNA in each of our cells is about 2 meters long, which is about 6 feet. Here is a 6-foot piece of string for comparison.
Whoa, how does 6 feet of DNA fit in each cell in our body?
Great question. In humans, DNA is cut into 46 pieces and wound up tightly into little bundles called chromosomes. You get 23 chromosomes from your mom and 23 from your dad.
So we have a mixture of traits from both our parents because we have DNA from both of them.
Exactly. Now let's explore how DNA leads to traits. The instructions in DNA are divided into sections called genes. Each gene makes a specific type of protein. Proteins carry out tasks in your cells.
That's a protein? It looks like a blob.
Proteins are made of thousands of atoms, but scientists are on their shape because that's what determines what they do. For example, this ring-shaped protein allows water to pass in and out of cells. This Y-shaped protein can attach to viruses, which help our immune system fight them off. And this other protein has the perfect shape for attaching to DNA and cutting it, just like a pair of scissors. And this protein, called keratin, is long and thin. Millions and billions of them can stick together to form a strand of hair.
Wow, so almost every part of us, from our hair, to our hearts, to our brain, wouldn't exist without proteins.
That's right.
So the hairless cat I was holding earlier must have been unable to make hair protein.
Meaning it didn't have the gene to make hair protein. Or maybe there was a problem with the gene.
A problem like a mutation, which is a mistake in the DNA code. Every time human DNA is copied and passed from one generation to the next, it accumulates 100 to 200 mutations.
That sounds scary.
While some mutations can be harmful, others can be helpful, but most mutations have no effect at all. I can show you this using a recipe for chocolate chip cookies. Let's see what a mutation or error in the recipe can do. First, here is a regular cookie recipe without any mutations. Give it a try.
That's good.
Tastes good, yeah.
Great. This next batch is one in which an error or mutation was added to the recipe. Instead of 1 teaspoon of salt, I used 1 tablespoon of salt. Give it a try.
Surprisingly, it tastes about the same.
Yeah, I agree. So it seems that some errors have no noticeable effect.
Correct. In the next batch, we added a different mutation. To this recipe, instead of adding 1 cup of nuts, I use 1 cup of donuts.
This tastes great.
Yeah, way better. Who knew that a mutation could actually make a cookie taste better?
And in the last batch, we have a different mutation. This one, well, you try it before I tell you.
Okay.
Trust me.
What's this stuff on the...
This is kind of nasty. What is this stuff?
Well, instead of 1 cup of sugar, I use 1 cup of boogers.
Did you say boogers?
I did.
I'm gonna go throw up now.
From who?
It's not my boogers, it's from a cow.
Oh.
Not my boogers, guys.
Oh.
It's not that... It's really not that bad. Okay, it's a little chewy, but it's not bad. As we just saw using a recipe, small errors or mutations can have no effect, be beneficial, or harmful. The same is true of mutations in our genes.
So what do mutations in our genes actually look like?
Mutations in genes are basically typos. For example, this is a gene that makes the protein hemoglobin, which is needed to circulate oxygen in your blood. What do you notice about it?
There are only 4 different letters.
A, T, C, and G.
Correct. In English, there are 26 letters, but DNA code is much simpler. It only has 4 possible letters, and every word is 3 letters long.
So mutations in genes are basically typos in that code.
Yes, scientists have found over 1,000 different mutations in this gene which have no effect. People with those mutations function totally normal.
Are there any mutations in that gene that could be helpful? Like make the protein better?
Yes, if your genes for hemoglobin have the 19th letter changed to an A instead of a G, then you'll be protected from getting a disease called malaria, which kills 1 million people each year.
So that mutation protects you from getting infected. That's amazing.
However, a different mutation in this gene, in which the 20th letter is changed from an A to a T, causes sickle cell anemia. That's a disease that makes red blood cells curved, resulting in pain and even blocking the circulatory system.
That's definitely a harmful mutation.
So although some mutations in DNA can be harmful or beneficial, they usually have no effect.
Yes, we all get some mutations naturally, but things like sunlight, smoking, and some chemicals can increase how many of these mutations we get.
And more mutations can cause cells to start dividing uncontrollably, which is what leads to cancer.
So basically, wear sunscreen and don't smoke.
Exactly. We don't want to add tons of typos to our already awesome DNA.
Now, let's explore the kinds of careers you can have working with genes and mutations.
Forensic scientists work with DNA to solve crimes. If a criminal leaves DNA at a crime scene, a forensic scientist can take a tiny sample of it and make billions of copies of DNA. These copies can tell us what unique mutations the criminal has. When the DNA from the crime scene is compared to the DNA of the suspects, forensic scientists can provide evidence to identify who did it. Another career that studies DNA is a virologist. Virologists study viruses, which are tiny pieces of genetic material, like DNA, surrounded by a protein shell. Some viruses have as few as 4 genes, which allows them to mutate and spread fast. Most of these mutations have no effect, but some can make the virus more deadly. By understanding the virus's genes, virologists can help contain outbreaks, develop treatments, and save lives. These are just 2 of the many careers that make the world a better place through the understanding of genes and mutations.
Today, I'll show you how to extract DNA from strawberries. First, add 1/3 cup of water, a tablespoon of dish soap, and a teaspoon of salt to the plastic bag. Then, drop in a strawberry, seal it up, and smash the strawberry into tiny pieces. The soap will break down the cell walls and release the strawberry DNA into the liquid. Next, use a coffee filter to filter out the liquid into a beaker. Finally, we can separate the DNA from this liquid by using cold rubbing alcohol. Simply pour an equal volume over the top slowly. Then, wait about a minute as DNA starts collecting between the two liquids. That stringy white stuff you see is DNA. You can pick it up with a toothpick, like this. All living things, including the strawberry, contain DNA. DNA molecules are long and stringy. When many of them come together, they get tangled, which makes the liquid slimy. Try it yourself.
Thanks, Adam. Now let's review.
Today we learned that all living things have traits based on their genes.
Genes code for proteins that have specific structures and functions.
And mutations in genes can be beneficial, harmful, or have no effect.
Join us next time on the Lab Report. I'm Dr. Jeff.
I'm Adam.
I'm Caroline.
And remember,
Always question, always wonder.